Hi, this is Dick Rauscher. Have you ever thought about throwing stones into a pond to create ripples? I'll be back in a minute and we'll talk a little bit about how those ripples can be compassion. I returned recently from throwing pebbles into the pond called Guatemala, pebbles that I hoped would send ripples of compassion into the world. I went on the habitat trip with a team of volunteers to build smokeless stoves, homes, and latrines for a few Guatemalan families currently living in poverty. Now, I went to help them, but what I discovered was my own poverty. When I first arrived in San Lucas Toloman, I saw the overwhelming poverty that I had expected to see. For example, the corrugated metal walls of their small homes, soot blackened from years of cooking indoors over open fires. I saw the never-ending diet of corn tortilla and beans, the scarcity of shoes on the people that were walking the streets, field workers, both adults and children, traveling in the back of old pickup trucks to their jobs each day, picking coffee beans for wages that keep them trapped in poverty. I saw old men walking the roads miles each day, carrying heavy bundles of firewood strapped onto their backs. Yeah, I saw the poverty, but what I discovered in the midst of all that poverty was the overwhelming warmth and friendliness of the people, the smiles, the eye contact, and the cheerful buenos dias and buenas tardes from everyone. I saw the kids that never tired of slapping our hand and bumping our fists with us as they helped us carry dirt and stones for the mortar that we were using to build the home. I experienced the never-ending requests for us to take their pictures so that they could see themselves on our cameras. The sense of community and family that I experienced through the generosity and open hearts of the families that we worked with quietly kindled inside me a longing for more community wholeness and belonging in my own life. I went to Guatemala to help them in their climb out of poverty, but what I discovered was my own. At the end of our 2-week stay, I experienced sadness saying goodbye to the San Lucas families that we'd worked with, and David Courier, the Habitat team leader that led our team. As the shuttle drove us to the airport in Guatemala City, I knew I was bringing home some wonderful memories, but I was also leaving a warmth of community and belonging that was missing in the world that I was returning to. And I was grieving that loss quite a lot. As I pulled into the driveway of my home in Redmond, Oregon, I couldn't help noticing that unlike the streets of San Lucas, the street was empty of children. Everyone in the neighborhood was inside their home, invisible behind closed doors. There was no chatter of people talking with one another, no children laughing and playing in the streets, no roosters crowing, and no tuk-tuks driving up and down the street, no vendors selling their wares, and no birds singing, no flowers blooming, and no people smiling and greeting me. It was a pretty quiet neighborhood. As I reached to close the garage door, I made a silent commitment to spend more time in the front yard of my home this summer, a commitment to wave at every car that drives by and say hello or good morning to every person who walks past, whether friend or stranger. Now, I know it won't create the warmth and the sense of community that I experienced in Guatemala, but it will perhaps begin to satisfy the need my soul has to belong to and create community. As I hit the light switch on my way into the kitchen, I wondered with a chuckle what my neighbors would think if I purchased a couple of roosters and maybe some chickens for the backyard, or maybe if I imported a tuk-tuk from India and started giving rides to my neighbors. Or maybe if I fired up my portable fire pit in front of the house each evening and invited my neighbors to come over for a happy hour. I could offer them some hot cups of Guatemala coffee, maybe even some tortillas. I realized in that moment that the ripples of compassion that began so far away in Guatemala had already traveled all the way to Redmond, Oregon.